trash and all this. I mean, and
They are paid.
it's true.
They are paid. That's my philosophy. They are paid.
Everything is on
Truly.
things, any
And other perks, but the reality is, I think they are. I think what they should do is if you're a scholarship student, whether they cut you, like they did to my son, and whether they, regardless, once you commit to the kid, you owe him 4 years of his education. Whether he turns pro, gets hurt, the reality is, for the kid who wants, because my son played at Wisconsin for 2 years, it's not like going to school normal. It's about something other than being a student athlete. It's about being an athlete. So I really think they should commit to every kid that goes in. You finish your education, whether we get rid of you, whether you get hurt.
She gets her tan there.
Yeah.
Hey, this is good.
I think
2% higher sales tax rate.
Kind of far.
Are we set, Pat?
Racing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the March regular meeting of your Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes, and especially to honor the men and women in uniform who serve and protect our community, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Fitzgerald, may we have the roll call?
Certainly, Madam President. Trustee Hansen?
Here.
Trustee Timmick?
Here.
Trustee Allen?
Here.
Trustee Rudolph?
Here.
Trustee Sifferman?
Here.
Trustee Terrell?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Having read the agenda for this evening, does any trustee wish to add or delete an item from tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to our new business. In the agenda, we have citizens' comments, but I think it makes sense to delay comments until after we have a presentation from the Tollway. The Tollway has come to our meeting tonight to give us an update on the BNSF Railroad project and its impacts to our village. So we have many members of the Tollway. Rocco Zucchero, did I say that right?
Perfect.
Hello, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rocco Zucchero. I head up the planning department at the Illinois Tollway. Thanks.
Sorry, you have to use the microphone.
Thanks for having me here tonight for the opportunity. Is it on? I'm using the microphone, but it's on.
The button goes up.
Just slide it up. There you go.
I'm always tempted when there's a microphone in my hand to belt out the song, but I'll hold off. So thanks again for the opportunity to approach you tonight. I have to say thanks to the mayor and her staff for you guys have been working terrific with us for a long time. I appreciate the early input. You're very thorough. And your consultant engineer and staff back here, very thorough input early on that gives us the clear mission of things that we definitely need to be concerned about throughout the entire project, which ultimately provides the best amount of best outcome for all of us. So tonight, I'll give you a very brief overview of the project and talk about a little bit about the recommendations and really focus on about the Burlington Northern Bridge project because that's we want to speak to that. And give you some indication of overall project timeline and let you know what's going on. Obviously, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask me. So when we talk about the tollways, Interstate 294 project that we call it the Central Tri-State, called a couple different things. The limits, as we talk about the project, start at 95th Street on the south end, so about the Oak Lawn, Hickory Hills area, north to Balmoral Avenue, which is about Rosemont or O'Hare Airport. You may have heard me say this before. We've done this, a couple different presentations. This really is the tollway, the workhorse of the tollway system. This Interstate 294 is by far the busiest road that we have on the entire tollway system. It's really integral to not just the tollway, but also to the region as growth continued to happen, post-war growth continued to happen further and further west. This road really became the lifeline to a lot of different communities connecting up Midway at the south end, O'Hare at the north end. We've got multiple rail intermodals up and down the entire corridor. I believe there's 4 different rail intermodals up and down the corridor. It's definitely very important and integral from an economic development standpoint. You've got some of the, outside of the city of Chicago, you've got some of the biggest job creators right along Interstate 294 with Oak Brook, Rosemont, everything near O'Hare Airport, and Midway Airport as well. So very integral to the economy. Major freight, with all the freight and the airport through there, it also carries the most amount of trucks that we have on the entire tollway system. So we carry the most amount of passenger cars, the most amount of trucks, and with that we come with the most amount of congestion that we have on the entire tollway system. So as we started out our planning process, the Tollway Board of Directors, we created a corridor planning council group that got a lot of feedback. The Western Springs was represented on that group. We got a lot of feedback about things that we should be considering and contemplating as we move forward with the project. Our Board of Directors gave us a direction to move forward with a project to look at the long-term vision and long-term solutions of what this corridor is today, but then also what it can be in the future to make sure that we remain vibrant and healthy and support the economy and freight that moves through here. So I'll speak to our recommendations that we had on the corridor. I believe this document or some form of it, I think it's on your website now. It's been out there for a little bit. So as we went through the planning process, we wanted to make sure that there's the right size solution through here. So it wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's a 22-mile corridor, so there's a lot of different projects within the overall project. So I'll try to speak to the whole. I know we try to show a lot on a small picture here, but there's a lot of things happening through here. The overall project timeline, which I'll hit on later, it's from 2018 through 2025. Again, a lot of different projects throughout the entire 22-mile corridor. And throughout construction, we're going to maintain 4 lanes of traffic. That's very important. We don't want to impede the flow of traffic and shift more traffic onto your local roads. You know, the parallel roads through here, Wolf Road, LaGrange roads, you know, further to the east, 83. So we want to make sure that during construction, we maintain 4 lanes of traffic. So that really drives the way we have to think about the project as well. So what we have on this on the screen, or I think you can see it through here, it's the number of lanes that we're recommending. So we worked, we're adding capacity, again, where it's needed. We worked with CMAP, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, the regional planning body, to really look at a travel demand and forecast of what's out here today, but then we also look to the year 2040, so 20 years beyond, of what the traffic demand might be, and kind of assessing some of those changes that were happening. So that we came up with recommendations on the number of lanes based on these traffic studies. But there's also some other projects that drove some of our thinking. And this is a major project, it's a major regional project. We are doing some significant improvements at the Interstate 290, Interstate 88, 294 interchange. That's the interchange that just flat out doesn't work. It's where a lot of daily delay happens. It's where trucks, basically, I like to call it, they sit in a U-turn movement. They have to basically go northbound, U-turn, south, climb. It's a mess for them. The I-88 to Interstate 294 connection is another one that really doesn't work very well. We've got a lot of weaving that happens that really kind of backs up traffic, miles long of backup. So that's a big component that drove our overall thinking as a major investment to fix the I-88, 294, I-290 interchange. We're also doing some improvements, slightly more modest at I-55, but that's another major choke point where the connection between 294 and I-55 occurs. So that drives some of the thinking and our recommendations. So I guess I'll start from south to north, you know, on the number of lanes that we're recommending adding. So from 95th Street up to about across the mile-long bridge, so it's from 95th up to about 75th Street at the south end. So Oak Lawn, Hickory Hills to about the Willow Springs-ish area, countryside area. We're recommending adding 1 lane in each direction. Now, complementary with all of the capacity additions, we're incorporating what we call the flex lane. Let me speak to what the flex lane is. If you've driven on Interstate 90, what we've done on Interstate 90 is something that we're looking to replicate here and likely in other places as well. The inside shoulder on Interstate 90, what we've done is created basically a slightly wider inside shoulder, anywhere between 6 inches to 4 feet wider, to accommodate what we call this flex lane. The flex lane is really intended, it's not intended to be a mixed travel lane, so it's not used for passenger cars. It's really intended for a couple different reasons. Emergency purposes, so if there's an accident or an incident on the road where other lanes are blocked, we can, through some overhead gantry or some signage, allow vehicles to go around the accident or incident by using the flex lane, so in temporary situations, to provide a safe zone for our emergency responders to get out there and respond to an incident or an accident, while also trying to maintain the flow of traffic. So the flex lane can be used for emergency purposes, or what we're doing on Interstate 90, and we'd like to do it here as well, is creating basically it's a dedicated bus lane. So similar to what's happening on Interstate 55, where if you've driven on I-55, the Department of Transportation runs a bus lane through there. It's limited speed bus lanes on the inside shoulder. By providing this little extra space on our shoulder, we're able to allow buses to travel at the main operating speed. So whatever the posted speed limit is, the buses can travel at that speed limit too. So really providing a reliable and viable north-south transit corridor throughout this entire area. Pace, from what I've heard at a presentation of theirs not too long ago, initially on the Interstate 90 corridor, within literally no time, we had just opened up that project about a year or so ago. They've seen a 40% increase in transit ridership on there. And that's impressive. In just a short time, and they really haven't done too much to market it. So, we're encouraged by those early signs. So we like to take that same concept and apply it here. So we've got a flex lane, so it's truly our inside shoulder, just built a little bit extra wide. It is not intended to be used 24/7, only in emergency situations or for bus lanes. So that's kind of complementary to everything that we're recommending through here. So we're recommending adding lanes. I'll get back to that. One lane in each direction from 95th up to about 75th. Through the areas where we have interchanges coming on or off of Interstate 294, you'll see, maintaining 4 lanes. That's what we have out there, maintaining 4 lanes. It is maintaining 4 lanes along the main line, but what's happening through there is we're peeling traffic off of Interstate 294. So at I-55, we're taking 2 lanes off of Interstate 294, and where I-55 comes back on, we reintroduce those 2 lanes. So right now what happens today, you take traffic on and everybody has to fight for the same space. What we're doing, the concept is as traffic comes onto Interstate 294, if it's two lanes that are coming onto 294, we'll continue those 2 lanes through. So in the northbound direction through Western Springs from I-55, we are planning on bringing the 2 lanes on from I-55. And today, where everything gets forced merged underneath the Hinsdale Oasis, the Hinsdale Oasis is going to be coming down. We're going to run 2 contiguous lanes all the way up to I-88. At I-88 today, in the northbound direction, you peel off to, I believe it's a 2-lane ramp at I-88. So we're going to run those 2 lanes contiguous from I-55 at the south end all the way up to Interstate 88. On the east side, same thing is happening, but in the reverse direction. When you come on from Interstate 88 today we force you into a merge situation into the 4 lanes, so 2 lanes coming on from 88 into Interstate 294. We're going to carry those 2 lanes along Interstate 88 all the way down to basically Interstate 55. So it's equal, widening on both sides and east and west side through this area. So we're going from what we currently have is 4 lanes today to 6 in the future to accommodate that. The reconfiguration of the interchange at Interstate 290 and 294-88, and also to accommodate the I-55. North of there, we'll say from Interstate 90, we're adding 1 lane in each direction, and then there's a kind of a dash line at the top left of the screen. This is the Interstate 490. This is the new road that we're building now to provide a western bypass around O'Hare Airport. If you haven't seen it, we have recently completed the east-west portion of the road formerly known as the Elgin O'Hare to go to Elgin or O'Hare. We are now at the doorstep of O'Hare Airport. What we intend on doing over the next few years is connecting into the west side of O'Hare Airport and then a new bypass route connecting Interstate 294 up to Interstate 90 on the west side of O'Hare Airport. That's that dash line. So it's a new interstate that we're in the process of building now. Through that stretch where the interstate comes on and off, you'll see again, we're recommending 2 additional lanes, so 6 lanes in each direction to accept that new interstate travel. And then in between there and basically where the O'Hare ramps come on, we've got 5 lanes recommended. And then there's a short stretch of 6 lanes at the north end where the I-190 ramps come on from O'Hare Airport onto Interstate 294. So that's the overall concept plan of what our lane configurations and recommendations are. Again, it's equally spaced on both sides. The number of lanes are really based on not just today's traffic volumes, but the future projected volumes. Things that we've looked at also, I want to point this out, is there's a lot of we'll call it latent demand, so pent-up demand. The latent is basically pent-up demand that's already out there. Because what we've heard from a lot of the communities that we talk to is due to the congestion that's experienced on the tollway, a lot of people are diverting off, say, taking Wolf Road or LaGrange Road or York Road through Elmhurst and through that area to avoid the congestion in the most congested area between 290 and Interstate 55. So there's a lot of pent-up demand out there that's going to absorb some of the traffic. So our intent is to alleviate some of the traffic on these local roads that probably experience incompatible uses and incompatible traffic along your systems where they actually belong on the interstate. Really what we want to focus on now outside of that is the Burlington Northern Bridge project. Dan Felice is going to walk you through the construction staging. He'll talk to you about exactly how we anticipated approaching construction. We'll also, once he's done with that, we'll cover some of the right-of-way and easement needs on the project. So you'll see a map that I think we've provided to the village to show you what land is needed to accommodate this construction. Mostly, I will say this, most of the land that's needed is really in the temporary range, and that will allow tollway construction vehicles and equipment to access the bridge project in our construction zone from the tollway. I think that was important. I think you made it very clear to us. Preference is keep all tollway trucks and traffic and construction vehicles off of your local roads and keep them on the tollway. So to do that, we needed to provide some work zone areas to allow trucks to get on and off the tollway. So as you'll see as we go on a little bit later, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
before we get too far into the bridge project, our attorney has just a couple questions
Sure.
on the overview, if that's all right.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, can I just get a clarification? You said the Hinsdale Oasis is coming down.
That is correct.
Could you explain to us what that means in detail?
In detail, the Oasis that's up there now is coming down.
The Oasis
No, I'm kidding. No, so
I know,
the
I
over-the-road
know.
component of the Oasis,
It's not being replaced, in other words.
the over-the-road component is going to be coming down. That's what we know. So what we're looking at also is what can happen on that site. And I like to say this about the Oasis. You know, everybody has a different opinion about the Oasis. You know, some communities concerned about the revenue, some concerned about the community impact. The Oasis does provide a huge benefit for the travelers on the tollway system. We need to have rest areas on the system. It's a nice limited access type system. So what our intent right now is to take the over-the-road component down. We are exploring opportunities for redevelopment of the land through there. The redevelopment will likely not take the same form or shape as it is today with something over the road. The over-the-road component was nice back in the 1950s. It's basically a bridge. It outlived its life. You know, it's the use. So we're looking at opportunities of how we could provide those amenities to our users. So it might be something more traditional as a rest stop where there's something off to one side or the other. There is footprint to do some form of redevelopment, and the fuel stations can also remain open throughout construction. So what we know right now from construction, the over-the-road is going to come down. I also want to point this out too for other users of the tollway system. We're doing the same thing up at the O'Hare Oasis. That one is also coming down. But we're looking at opportunities for redevelopment. That one, the O'Hare Oasis, so much further north, is intended to come down later this year. The Hinsdale Oasis is definitely further back in the program, sometime in the 2020 plus timeframe.
That was my next question.
Yes, so it's not an imminent need. As you'll see when I talk about the timeline through here, maybe I'll just hit this right on. Burlington Northern Bridge, construction of that will start in 2019. It's a 3-year construction cycle. We should be done by early 2022. For all intents and purposes, late 21. Early 22 is more or less the cleanup work. And then after our Burlington Northern Bridge is complete, we'll be able to start working on our main line. So the earliest any main line construction will likely happen is about 2021. So there's a lot of different components.
That includes the Oasis then?
That would likely include the Oasis. So that's, you know, I can't give you a definitive timeline on that. That's what we want to do is figure out, okay, what's the right timeline of taking it down, and then looking at what goes back, if anything goes back. But there's opportunity to put something back there.
Will there be public input to put something
That's what
back?
we've talked about that all along to make sure, you know, what I understand too is that, you know, it's the Hinsdale Oasis, but it's an infringement upon the Western Springs and Burr Ridge residents on the east and west sides. So that's what we want to do, whatever goes back, make sure it's, we understand the issues and concerns, you know, from the, you know, one of the things I think we've always heard is the lighting issues. You know, when the old Oasis was here, the complaint that we heard from our customers was a dark and scary type of a place to go to. So what did? We lit that place up. And we built it high and glass windows on there. And that's what now we realize, okay, it's nice for people coming into it, and it's made a nice statement, but then also now understanding, okay, that was an impact on the resident site. So that's something that we've heard from other communities that are next to us. So it's an opportunity now to, again, work with the residents to put something back in that's more, you know, representative or reflective of the concerns.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned the stretch from I-55 to the airport. Which end will you start first?
So the plan right now is in 2018. So when I talk about, again, 2018 to 2025 is our overall timeline. I was going to hit this at the end, but I could jump right into it now. So we plan on doing 22 miles, a lot of complex projects in between. In 2018, we intend on working on the stretch from basically, we'll say, North Avenue or North Lake up to the airport. So we'll start some of that work in 2018 to tie in with our Elgin O'Hare, the 490 interstate through there. So we're going to do some of that work. So you'll start seeing some activity up at the north end. The next projects that will come, that will start, the projects that help facilitate the rest of the construction will be the Burlington Northern Bridge and the Mile Long Bridge. Those two elements of the overall 294 project have to get done first to allow us to hit the main line. Throughout construction, we're going to keep 4 lanes of traffic open. To do that, we need to make sure that so right now Burlington is the narrowest opening. There are no shoulders on either, very minimal shoulders on either side, so to maintain 4 lanes of traffic is impossible on the Burlington. So before we could hit the main line portion of 294, that Burlington Bridge has to be replaced. The bridge opening has to be sufficient to allow our future travel through there, but then also to allow us to shift traffic on either side of the bridge. The other project that's like that is our Mile Long Bridge. If you're familiar with that, that's the big bridge that goes over basically everything. It's a whole little city underneath. It's the Burlington Northern facility, it's the UPS, a bunch of businesses, Des Plaines River, I&M Canal, Chicago Sanitary Ship Canal, all kinds of stuff down there. So that bridge down at the south end is also a multi-year project. It will be very interesting the way we approach that project. We're through that area, the road is shifting to the east slightly through there, because that was what less impact on the facilities down below. We will be building an entirely new bridge off of the tollway system today to the east or to the north of where it is today. Once that bridge is built, we'll shift traffic onto that, and we'll build a new southbound bridge and then tear the other one down. So once the Mile Long Bridge and the Burlington Northern bridges are done, that allows us to now start working on the main line. So we'll be working kind of north, south, a couple different areas. What we also will be looking for is other opportunities, enabling type contracts. If there are things that we can do early on, if there's any kind of wall or utility work that happens first. So it'll be kind of work all over the place, but the most intrusive work on the tollway main line won't happen until earliest 2021, except the Burlington Northern Bridge and the Mile Long Bridge. There might be some other things. So, you know, we've got a little time that we're going to have to still work on the overall construction, staging and schedules and contracts. But you will start seeing work at the end of 2018, north of North Avenue. That's no doubt about that. And then the other work will start happening in 19.
Thank you.
Rocco, where does it shift back to the west?
At 75th Street.
Okay.
Yeah, once we get across the Mile Long Bridge, we shift back into these. Yes, clarification, we are not. The center line, I will hit this head on as well. The center line is not shifting through anywhere through here. Just it's that area where the Mile Long Bridge is over. If you're familiar with it, you know, you've got the Burlington Northern, has a lot of facilities and lifting facilities underneath it. So instead of doing an equal widening on both sides, it worked better for Burlington Northern and UPS, who are underneath, to have it shift one way, and then we're definitely allowed to get ourselves back in on our center line. So through here, center line stays the same.
Thank you.
Rocco, just a quick question, when you say 4 lanes, is that 2 and 2 or is that 4 and 4?
It's 4 and 4. So yeah, anything you see on there, it's number of lanes in both directions. So it's equal on both sides.
And Rocco, with that, where does it, that's south of the Hinsdale Oasis on the map, where does it shift from 6 to 4? That would be south of Plainfield Road? Or?
Yeah, so let me think about it. So basically, so what's happening through here, if you're familiar with this stretch through, right now as you approach Interstate 55, you could basically get up to the front of the line and cut over on I-55. That causes a lot of weaving and friction. You got Oasis traffic that's coming off to continue southbound through there, which interfaces with the mainline traffic and causes weaving. A lot of trucks who have just coming out of the Oasis. So what we are doing, the reconfiguration, I guess if you will, is really adding through that area. So it's about basically just north of 55th, where we're going to start peeling off 2 lanes to come to I-55. What we're doing through there, though, it's not just 2 lanes to go to I-55, it's going to be barrier separated. So if you're going to go to Interstate 55, you're going to have to commit basically around 55th Street So that's where we kind of go back to the 4-lane scenario through there, but there are ramps that will be peeling off. So you will have 4 main lines of traffic, a barrier shoulder, a barrier wall, another shoulder, and then 2 dedicated lanes going to I-55 to allow traffic to come on from the Oasis and traffic to peel off from 294, and then they will be able to merge back on from the Oasis back onto 294 just south of I-55.
Actually, 6 lanes.
6 lanes.
For a period of time.
It's generally, so it's 4 mainline lanes, but we have
there's 2 on
the
the
ramps.
The ramps.
Six.
Right,
Two
that's what I was just saying earlier, that's where, we're trying to put a lot of information into an 8.5 by 11.
Right.
Very complicated interchanges, so yeah, that's why I said we gotta figure out how to kind of show that a little differently, because I've heard that concern expressed now.
On the flex lanes, there's going to be 1 on each side of the center line.
Correct.
And that's where there's a shoulder today,
Mhm.
so that shoulder will kind of convert or, get
Exactly. It will still be a shoulder, we'll say 20 hours out of the day or 20 some odd hours out of the day, it'll still be a shoulder.
Okay.
But during those accidents or emergencies, we'll allow vehicles to use it to bypass the accident. Or when a PACE bus route is coming through, they'll have that shoulder. So it's the standard shoulder today, just built a little bit extra wide. The reason we're building a little extra wide is to allow the PACE bus to have enough shy zone to drive in that shoulder. So today on Interstate 55, PACE is limited to 35-mile max operating speed and no faster than 15 miles per hour than the slowest operating vehicle. So if somebody's driving 10, the PACE has to drive 25. So by us providing the extra width, it allows them to run it at full operating speeds because they've got enough shy zone from the barrier wall on the inside as well as the adjacent traffic lane.
And, you had mentioned possible redevelopment along by the Hinsdale Oasis, and there's those 2 fuel stations that kick off a lot of light and other things to the village.
Right.
Does this redevelopment, do you have any idea yet, or are you still way too early to talk about?
Way too early.
Might
That's what
go
we like to
there,
s-
or could that be lowered, or what other thoughts might happen?
So that's some of the things that we've heard, requests from the village, can it be lowered? That's what it's too early on that.
Okay.
How we're going to approach it, we don't know, or what happens here. I want to hit something else too, because I know one of the concerns that's always been expressed, again, by your community and others too, is the trucks and truck parking, and we don't like the trucks parked up and down the ramps. We have acquired some property south of here, in the Burr Ridge area for opportunities for some truck parking. It's right there at Interstate 294 and I-55. We'd like to make sure the trucks they have to go somewhere. And there's a lot of different restrictions on them now of hours of operation. So we've bought some land that's already in our possession at I-55. So that's what we're looking at for long-term truck parking. We're looking for opportunities in northbound direction as well to get trucks out of, basically put them in safe places instead of forcing them to park wherever they can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, we'll spend some time. So Dan will walk through the construction staging in the Burlington Northern. Then I'll get back to it and we'll talk a little bit about the impacts, the right-of-way and easement needs through this.
Thanks,
You
Robert.
Dan?
Thank you. Everything's working.
All right.
Thanks, Rocco. Again, I'm Dan Felice. I'm with Bowman Barrett & Associates. And our firm, along with many of our sub-consultants, make up the engineering team for the BNSF project that we'll go overview on, that Rocco's been providing the overview on. So throughout the process, we've been coordinating with the BNSF Railroad, and they've indicated that 3 tracks need to maintain active at all times during construction. That is to limit impacts to the commuter rail. We have Metra and Amtrak that use the line, in addition to the BNSF freight lines as well. So with that, this requires multiple stages of construction to occur in order for us to complete the process. So we'll go through the steps of these. The first step is, in order for us to do anything on the current existing track alignment, we need to move the tracks to a temporary position, and we're calling this the shoe fly alignment. So step 1 would be, we would construct a bridge on the south side of the existing bridge, and place the embankment and allow us to place the tracks on a temporary location. So step one is we're looking at fall of 19 to about mid to late summer of 20 for that preparation of the chute fly alignment. Then step two would be the BNSF forces would come in at that point, and they would install the tracks on the chute fly alignment. And then after the track is completed, we would shift traffic from the one by one. We would take tracks out of service on a temporary off-peak hour or weekend time frame and switch the tracks from the alignment that are beyond the bridge towards the end of our project limits and connect them to the chute fly alignment. So at the end of stage two, all the train traffic will be using the chute fly alignment at this point. And the BNSF forces for step two would complete this work from mid-late summer of 2020, where step one ended, to about the winter of 2020. So after all this is complete, we're able to attack the problem that we're coming here to solve at the beginning of step three. This is going to occur from winter of 2020 to about late summer of 2021. The work involved here, the existing bridge is going to be removed, the new bridge is going to be installed, and all the permanent embankment, all the work along the north side of the tracks are going to be completed. And step four, the BNSF forces are going to come back late summer of 2021 to winter of 2021. And they're going to install the tracks again on the permanent alignment. And I don't show it here, but similar like before, at this stage, one by one, the tracks are going to be moved or connected back from the existing to the new tracks that are shown in green there. So that takes us to the winter of 2021. And then step five is the restoration of the temporary chute fly alignment and removal of the embankment on the south side, and also final landscaping permanent restorations there along the south and both of the park areas there. This is planned for winter of 2021 to late spring of 2022. And at that point, the project will be complete and be ready for the main line. And the end configuration schematic is shown up here with the fourth track on the south end, which is a side-out track that the BNSF may or may not install at this point. I think that takes us through the staging. Is there any? Open it up for questions at this point, or?
You said may or may not install the fourth track. There's a possibility it'll come down?
Well, the bridge itself is going to remain. We're using that for one of the temporary conditions, but the BNSF will do the track work beyond the bridge.
I see.
To carry on that question, the way this looks like it's drawn, that new fourth rail line on the south side would just kind of keep extending Aurora to Chicago. Is the view maybe that would connect back into the third?
Next one, hang on a second. Sorry. Anticipating this? Yeah. So as Dan was saying, it's really up to the Burlington Northern what's left behind. We'll have the bridge itself. I think also important on what was there is the north line stays the same. If there is, the bridge will accommodate a fourth track on the south side. And what they have been talking about, and we've talked to Burlington about this as well, if there's anything that remains, you could see where it ties back in. It would be the northernmost track, somewhere through there, on the green. Steady hands, right? So there's 3 tracks here. Those are the 3 temporary tracks. The northernmost of those 3 tracks is the one that would tie back into the main line portion.
Right.
But would it be a
This is your-
separate structure from the new bridge? That 4th track, if it stays?
It would fit within, all within Burlington right-of-way, so it's within their embankment.
Okay.
Whatever left behind is all within Burlington.
But I guess, what I was trying to understand was, so the new bridge will have 3 tracks, and then this 4th track is a residual of the shoe fly, is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
And so it'll sort of be a standalone structure, or will it be tied into the?
It's tied into the permanent.
Okay.
So it'll look like one.
Okay.
one structure in the end.
Is it on both sides of the highway? Does the shoe fly extend the same length going west?
It's equidistant on both
Equidistant,
sides.
right?
The intent is to make sure that Burlington could still maintain the same operating speeds throughout construction. So whatever was necessary for that, so we did not, there's no
I think
favoritism.
the trustee said that 4th line, would it be, do you have any information whether it would be used as a permanent shoe fly? It would give them relief for queuing of trains, or?
Burlington is, so it's not long enough to queue trains up really through there. What they've expressed to us, and Burlington's gonna have to answer these questions, that, we've said this over.
Mhm.
What they've always represented to us is that it's a maintenance of way track. So if they were to have if they have to do tie and ballast maintenance or rail maintenance, instead of going back into their shop, they may leave something here for a day or two, whatever, short term, so their crew could start on site as opposed to going in and bringing all the materials back out. So if there's construction in this area on theirs. So that's how it's been represented to us, how that would be used, not as a railroad siding. I don't know, the total distance is,
Yeah, it's maybe 1,000 feet or so. 1,200.
so you don't, it's not that long from a siding
Just a quick,
standpoint.
I understand that there's not enough room to put like a freight car or anything like that, correct? So you wouldn't have freight cars sitting up there?
Again, you have 1,000 feet to work with, so again, I don't know how much, what that means in rail car. We're highway people. So again, Burlington would have to,
Okay.
again, address that, but you know how many miles a freight train is. They run in the 2+ mile trains. This is 1,000 feet, there's 5,280 feet per mile. So, this is
So you're saying it's
relatively
1,000
short
feet
distance.
from the center of the tollway
So
into
what
our
was the total?
village?
It's overall, it's about 1,200 feet, so we're,
the overall length,
From west to east.
for this set out.
do we have, I don't see the
track.
stations on there. Is that on both sides or is that on
That's total.
total?
Total.
Well, wait,
Yeah,
it's-
So about 600 on either
So
side.
we have roughly about 600 on either side.
All right.
And it's very conceptual at this point. But the rail alignment and the orientation of it only allows very slow speeds to occur. So they're not looking, the way they explained it to us, they're not looking for it to be used as an additional freight line.
Well, it's sort of more like Village Manager Velking's comment about, is this going to store equipment there for a long time? Because that's, our main park is right there.
Burlington's gonna have to answer those questions. So we had a meeting in the field, I don't know, whenever that was, some
Long
sunny
time ago.
day, whenever it was.
Yeah.
And, that concern was expressed by both communities. What's gonna be stored there, how long it's gonna be stored there, because, as you well know, there's parks on both sides. So, that's, again.
Rocco?
Burlington heard
Rocco,
that.
could you please explain the relationship between the toll road and the Burlington,
Oh, the historic relationship.
the historic relationship and how this works?
So, we have an agreement that the tollway signed back in the 1950s. Basically, for the most part, what it says is whatever the Burlington wants, the tollway is responsible for building it. Because at one point in time, and you work with the railroads through here, they truly were here first. So the only reason there's a bridge here is because of the tollway. Had the tollway never been built, they don't have to deal with the bridge. So whatever. So the agreement that was signed back in 4, 6, long time ago, basically stipulated that whatever the Burlington wants on the bridge, we have to build it. So the tollway's responsibility for this construction is to build the bridge, so the bridge structure that goes over the tollway. Outside of that, it's really the Burlington drives everything after that. What they want to have left behind is their decision. We are just building the physical bridge infrastructure, and anything that, that I showed here, anything permanent has to fit within the Burlington right-of-way.
And when you say the Burlington right-of-way, they're existing right-of-way?
They're existing right-of-way.
No expanded right-of-way, correct?
No expanded right-of-way. So whatever they have fits in here. Is that what you're thinking of, Josh?
Dan or Rocco, can you tell me how much land you're going to temporarily use in the park? I couldn't tell from that last slide, this blue slide, how far much, I can't read how much into the park, the north side of the park that's taking.
Dimension-wise, do we know what that is?
The bottom blue corridor.
The bottom blue?
South end of the park, but on the north side of it.
I hate to give misinformation if we don't have the dimensions.
I'd say it's about 60 feet.
But to clarify, that's a temporary easement for construction purposes.
So on this, the blue shows temporary easements, the red shows proposed right-of-way or permanent easements through there. But the temporary easements, like I said, are really due in large part to allow, one, to allow that temporary bridge to be built, and then also to make sure that construction vehicles have access to the site on and off from just the tollway instead of coming in through the village side. So those impacts would be temporary and through the duration of, we would acquire it for typically a 5-year period, but the construction duration would be through spring 22 is when final restoration would occur.
Okay.
So the fields would be probably and the intent also is to make sure that, you can kind of see the cutout, as we've been talking to the Park District as well, to avoid the tennis courts through there, given the high usage of the courts. What we want to work with the Park District on too is making sure that the facilities could still be used, so the soccer fields and all that. So is there something that we can do on reconfiguration to help maintain that, if there's any lighting or things like that?
Where do these trucks come into the park? Is that this easement on the bottom, the red line? Is that how they're going to come into the park to do this work?
Yeah, so basically in each quadrant of the tollway where the red and the blue line meet, right below the BNSF right-of-way line, in that area is going to be, in each quadrant, we're going to have access points for trucks to enter and exit the work site. So the temporary grading plan is going to be in place that's going to allow them to use this, like the purple blue shaded area as, we'll call it like a haul road to move material and equipment back and forth within the site, and then we'll enter and exit from the tollway points.
Where that butts up against the park, what sort of barrier will there be in terms of to protect
through that area?
Yeah, we've had a couple of discussions on that. One item that was raised was to put a fencing with the construction mat between it, so kind of can't see through it. But there's various things we can look into that.
Well, that and also too in terms of vehicles perhaps errantly going into the park area. Would there be like the concrete barriers or something along those lines? Or?
We don't envision that right now. What we're looking at is basically a chain link fence with some screening on it.
Because it's going to be right there up against the tennis court and things like that. It's a little concerning.
Yeah, no, understood.
And nothing that can help minimize dust during that time period either, right?
A couple different things. So we do have dust control. So now I'm going to put that back on Matt and Jeff during construction. So we do have dust control plans. So that's one thing Aaron dust, that's important for the contractors. So they will have to have a dust control plan. Will there be dust? Absolutely.
Right.
But what they are supposed to do is make sure that they use proper dust suppressants. There's things that they put on the open materials, or there's a limited amount of time that they could have anything open and exposed as far as dirt. So they'd have to stabilize their construction paths with some kind of stone or whatever it might be. Again, not to kick up as much dust.
Right.
So they are responsible for dust control. So it will be a problem. But again, that's what we'll have to make sure that we're hard on our contractors to make sure they're complying with
Right, I'm thinking of the
control.
use of the park with all the kids in the park and then also the nearby residents.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's, again, we make our contractors do it. We are not, we'll have people out there. So if things are going on through construction, you yourself report it back to us.
Okay.
It'll happen, but we want to make sure that's controlled. So there's provisions in place for
Okay.
dust control.
I will,
So-
I live close by.
Right.
I had a question about.
Rudolph, Heidi Rudolph. Right, right.
Yeah, I live close by.
The hours of construction as well?
Follow the, typically we'll be
ordinance?
following your local. What we might be doing though, as Dan was saying, to minimize the impact on the Burlington as well, I'm just gonna speak for you because I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure this is what's gonna happen. Because when we're taking the Burlington tracks down, it might have to be over the night or a weekend or something like that, right? That's the reality of it. So 90-some-odd% of our work will follow your construction ordinances that you have in town. But if there's something that we have to do that is really night-driven, we want to do things when there's minimal train traffic and minimal roadway traffic. So we'll do those things, overnight or things like that.
What about pylons? Aren't you putting in heavy pylons and putting this bridge up?
Along the south side, there will be some, and north side too, right?
Correct. So we're trying to drill as much as we can to try to minimize, but there's some areas where we are going to be installing a driven piles. One is the shoe fly bridge itself. It's just easier to temporary condition to use that type of material. And then also on the south side.
For the retaining wall.
Some of the retaining wall work.
Back to the Burlington, is there any expectation that the train service itself will be disrupted during any of the building of the shoe fly? Schedules, I'm thinking specifically.
That maybe the weekend, that should be about it.
For the weekend,
Yeah,
okay.
but the big, we've got a big challenge here to make
Yeah.
sure, because there's a lot of, I live right out the UP, you guys have a lot more trains,
Oh.
that's
Yeah.
for sure. So it's one of Burlington's busiest rails, so they make it mandatory that
Okay.
we keep that open and active
Okay.
for, again, full operating speeds.
Okay.
So for
Yeah,
them
I
as
guess
well
that's
as
what I'm
underneath.
getting at. It's
Yes.
intended that it's full operating speeds
Yes.
the whole time.
We're not looking at slow zones.
Okay.
Right, so that kind of plays into how much is needed.
Right.
Through there, if you were going to slow
Right.
it down, it would change it, so no
Okay.
slow zones.
What did you say a few minutes ago about the north side? Did you say something
With the
about pylons on the north side or anything?
No, what I said about the north side, so when all work is done, so when all construction is complete, the north track today will still be the northern limit of the track. So there's no shifting of there's no, that potential track down at the bottom actually is, turn that one off. It's down here. So the north track, that remains the same. If that shoe fly remains, or a portion of it, the new track would be on the south side. That's what I was basically saying. So that your northern limits stay the same.
Jim, was that your question, or were you talking about the pylons?
Well, there was a big track that you have on the north side of the track, and next slide. What about all that up on the north side of the train track? I mean,
The purple?
the purple going all the way out. What's all that?
So those are temporary easements, and those are necessary again to allow access from the tollway, and to allow the temporary grading to be in place. Not only just to support the embankment, but we're gonna have temporary areas where the railroad requires flatter platforms or work areas so they can move the tracks over with their equipment, because they can't, some of the tracks can't be built by hand, and they're gonna drag some over, so they're gonna need some areas. So that area on the north side, there's still some alternatives we're investigating on how that's gonna look in the final condition.
But that all reverts back then to the original footprint on the north side.
How far east does
And
that
if
go?
I'm not mistaken, though, the sidewalks they're on the south side now, we're gonna go put them on the north side. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we looked at too.
Some options we're considering. So we haven't completed the final layout of that north side at this time.
Okay.
There was a question of how far it goes. That bottom image is the inside of how far that.
Oh, I see.
it goes.
Yeah, sorry, that's basically it, right?
Essentially just past Prospect,
Just
just
east.
east of Prospect,
Thanks, Jim.
roughly 100 feet east of Prospect.
And this is Prospect right here? That's your
That's
pedestrian
correct.
crossing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the sidewalks, which right now are on the, on Hillgrove, those will be put on the other side of the street?
That's what, we're talking about that, I guess, right? Yes, we're gonna replace the sidewalks, it's really where, whatever the preference would be on the village side.
I apologize if I missed this. With the new bridge, is the pitch and the grade the same as it is currently? Or will it be higher, steeper?
How are we handling that?
The profile of the grade will be raised at the tollway to allow for proper vertical clearance down below.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and then it'll come back down and touch existing near the project limits.
Okay.
And it's a railroad grade, so the steepness, it's not gonna look as bad, but the height is about 4 feet at the tollway where we're increasing the rail grade at the toll location. And will gradually come back down and meet existing at the project limits.
And for Trustee Timick, the grade will start at about Central Avenue, just to the west of Central Avenue. That's where they're going to be meeting our existing elevation, and then it'll gradually increase until it hits the 294. At that point, it'll be roughly 4 feet higher than what it currently is.
So there won't be 4 foot of fall from the middle of the tollway, 600 feet in each direction? It'll extend further
It
into each
extends
community?
further than
To
that,
Central.
yes.
To Central, okay.
On this diagram, the blue box, that's the proposed pedestrian underpass?
That's, I believe, your current pedestrian crossing,
Oh,
right?
no,
Or is that
no,
proposed?
no.
That's proposed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I
So
can see that one.
because
Okay,
the-
sorry.
The other one is over here.
Yeah, I see it off
More to
to the
the,
east.
and that would be like Prospect.
Yeah.
If we can talk also about displacement of our commuter cars. We can understand 100 spaces will be utilized.
You know numbers on those?
Yeah, up to about, the future pedestrian plan, the underpass location. To the west is about 65 or so spaces. And right now, that's about our limit of construction where we're thinking of, or where the grading is dictating where we end the project limit. So just to add a few more extra spaces, we're looking at 75 right now.
Okay.
Can you also address just the precautions that you're going to be taking on the north side of the tracks with regard to well and other facilities and so forth?
Want to speak to what we're doing, well protection?
Yeah.
Who's well versed on that?
We had some review comments back and forth, and we are in the process of an IEPA groundwater protection needs assessment plan will be developed. And one other request was to do a transfer switch in case the power is affected by the construction, and it'll turn on the motors there for transfer power with the use of the generator there. So those are 2 items right now we are including, and the third item is vibration monitoring as well. We include some requirements and the specifications that the contractor follow in case there's some vibrations that exceed some limits there.
And how are those limits determined? Is it,
You would need to work with your staff.
Okay.
To come up with a plan on that.
And we'd like to see a copy before those documents get too far down the rail, so to speak. Bad pun, but I had to. Right?
Attorney/comedian.
Yes. Only on Monday nights.
Right.
any other questions? Any other comments?
So really briefly, again, if I can, so if there's any other questions on it?
I was wondering, Walt Naki is here from the Park District. Did you want to say anything, Walt? Or?
curious. One is,
Well-
you mentioned vibration.
Well, can you come up, please, and use the microphone? That's so the people at home can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Walt Nackey, Executive Director for the Park District. We've been meeting with Nikki and team on this project several times. We're now collaborating, with the village, as you know, Alice. But one of the questions we have is about, you said vibration will be monitored, but noise has got to be monitored as well. There's going to be a huge issue with park enjoyment. And one of the things that we know as residents and as patrons in our parks is they like peace and quiet. So now you've got rails and trains that are moving much closer to where we enjoy our parks. So that's paramount for us. The second question that I would have from the Park District is what's the speed of those trains? Will they be diminished in this shoe fly?
No.
They
They will
will
remain the same. Whatever it is today, they will remain that same speed.
same speed. The third issue is around the berm. Now, if I understand it right, is that you're going to have access from the trucks, construction trucks, through the berm, correct? Let's call it you'll provide access
Your
and,
berm on the Park District side.
yes, correct.
Yeah.
That's going to be the access point, is that correct?
Point from coming in from the tollway, and from the tollway into the Bush.
And that will be restored,
Yeah. However, that's what we're working through on whatever the restoration plan will look like, landscape or.
okay. All right. The other huge issue here is about, and we've had over the past several years, an issue with safety, egress and ingress about getting in and getting out of the park. So if there are trucks, construction trucks, in that purple area where the easement is, you could see a blockage, of not only our children, our coaches, our soccer players, all trying to get out because we may have a storm warning, or there may be a real serious weather issue. And the only way to get in and out of this park, right, is that road that you see right there. Let's see if you could point that out to the audience. Yeah, that's it. So, there's going to have to be very close monitoring of, what trucks are there, when are they there, and do we have access when all these kids are in our parks? Thousands of kids are in there. So those
Let me
are.
ask you this. So throughout construction, the intent was not to have any construction vehicles doing anything through here. Again, the wide swath of route is to make sure the trucks could get on and off the tollway without encroaching upon that area. So this will not be, this will be access controlled areas through here. So your access out of your park will always be maintained.
It's just paramount. We can't take any risks. And finally,
We do have a temporary retaining wall that's being constructed there in the first step. And Burlington is not going to be closed, but there might be some minor impacts to Burlington.
Retaining wall over here.
Correct, for a very short period of time. But besides that, and then when it's removed, but besides that, the duration of the project is correct.
And finally, at least for tonight, because as we work through these issues together, along the tennis courts, where you point that out for me, Rocco, right there. That, by the way, we've staked this out. The tollway folks have come out and staked the project out completely. I would encourage you to go look at it. You'll see a real impact to how it affects us. And there's both blue and red stakes. The red represents the permanent easement or the taking that will take place. The blue represents the easement or the temporary easement that they talked about through 2022, okay?
Okay.
But what we would want to consider, because of the noise and because of the disruption to one of our key patrons, when that's tennis, is some type of sound barrier during construction too. So that's got to be on the list. There's a couple other things, but I won't go any further. Is that fair enough, Alice?
Sure.
Okay. Any questions about the Park District at this point?
Thank you.
I have another question.
Sure, Bill.
For Rocco. What kind of access control measures that you were talking about do you have for the entry into this area off of the northbound tri-state. So the access off of the highway into this
So,
area, are you gonna have someone posted there when the construction is?
What we'll likely have is, what we'll have is, so it's, the work zone will also be, what's that?
Microphone.
Oh. The work zone will also be barrier separated, so along the existing shoulders, we'll have some kind of a barrier for a protected work zone. So any contractor who wants to enter the site is going to have to deliberately turn into a work zone.
Well, is there gonna be a post there for someone checking?
Yeah, do we typically put
And-
somebody stationed out there? Yeah.
You know, for traffic at night? Somebody wandering off the highway
Or is
going
there a
into there?
gate, or is there a gate or something at night?
Well,
The work zone 2 entering there, the existing tollway ditch, we're gonna utilize that area for the contractors. So we're modifying that in order to create a nice platform for them. But there's gonna be standard traffic control devices that's used on all the tollway projects to delineate the work zone and provide contractor access for the duration.
well,
of
how
the
do you
project.
defeat the non-contractor access that may occur for, you know, purposes that might include taking some of the construction material or?
You do what you can on fencing. I mean, it's not going to be easy for somebody to get into that site.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty typical what we've done on all our constructions. I mean, to get into the construction sites, you're not going to do it at full speed, right? I mean, you're going to have, as our contractors are getting ready to approach or come into the construction work zone, we'll have some flaggers, you know, letting people, hey, slow down, there's somebody coming in. So it's not like an exit ramp. It's more of a, I don't want to say 90 turn, but it's a forced turn from the interstate. So again, we haven't had any issues like that. Typically, you know, contractor quickly.
Well, I would
hang it
just
up on
ask
it.
that you
Yeah, that's a good point,
consider the access to that area during non-work hours by individuals not authorized to be in that area.
Is your concern that our law enforcement would need to somehow police that area? Is that what your thought is?
I'm not offering that would be a responsibility
it
for
could be
our
what
law.
we
No,
look at
not as
some
a
kind of
solution,
barricade.
but a concern. I mean,
A barricade or something like that to just basically fence that area off so nobody can get in. during the
That would
off
be
hours.
good.
There's just one entrance.
Well, we probably have a couple entrances, yeah? One in and one out, is that how it would run? On either side of the bridge, yes, yeah, one to get into the zone, one to get into the site, sorry about your head, and then one to get out.
Well, you had mentioned access control measures, and I wondered what that included, so
Yeah.
that was the
It's
purpose
breaking a
of my
barrier wall,
question.
but that's a good point, you know, we could put some kind of type 3 barricade, whatever, something through there.
Where's the entrance on the north side of the bridge?
Oh, have we decided where any of those entrances are even going? Yeah, we're not at that point yet.
It would be probably closer to the public works facility.
Oh, sure, the closer to the work zone as possible is what we would want.
And Rocco, any plans on the toll rate, the fees,
No changes.
through 2025?
The capital program we're working on right now, all the projects are funded through our current capital program, which was from 2012 to 2026. So we have no intent at this point in time to have any toll modifications. What happens in the future, I don't know, but this project is funded out of our current capital program. We don't need any additional dollars to do this.
I have another noise-related question. Will, as part of the overall construction, are the noise barriers being upgraded?
Yes. So we're doing a whole update on, of all the noise analysis along the entire corridor for both future traffic projections, so the number of vehicles traveling through, trucks and cars, but then also the lane configuration. So as traffic increases and the lanes get closer, that changes the noise. So the noise walls that are out there today, or there are no noise walls in certain areas, we'll be putting in new noise walls or adjusting the existing noise walls. I should say, building new walls so that we're not leaving anything existing out there. We're going to put in new walls.
And do those go up before the act, is that part of kind of more of the prep work, or is that at the end?
If we could put them in advance, we will.
Okay.
That's difficult because if you got it, it's difficult to do that because again, what we've talked about internally is making sure that the exposure time is as limited as possible.
Okay.
So when any wall is down,
Yeah.
to limit that amount of time that before a wall goes up.
Okay.
To build a wall, we want to build everything from the tollway side. That's the ideal scenario. If a wall goes up first, we may not have access to where the wall is going to be from the tollway side if there's an existing wall there.
Understood.
So that would require us to come in from the resident side, which
Right.
we would rather not do that if we didn't have to.
Okay.
I'm sure you wouldn't want us either. So, but what we have looked at is how we can limit the amount of time that a wall is down before anything
Okay.
goes up.
And then in areas where there's not currently a wall, for example, along Spring Rock Park, there is a berm, there is not a wall. Would there be a wall added there?
Don't believe a wall is recommended at that location. There is another area. So what we look at for is really in the residential areas for the most part is where we put the noise walls are being recommended. The area that I recall that where new noise walls are being added is through Timber Trails.
Uh-huh.
So that whole stretch
Sure.
wall is being added. I don't know if there's any other new locations,
Okay.
but through the park. No, there's the existing wall will be, yes, well, that'll be replaced with a different wall.
I would be remiss to not speak on behalf of the residents who live by the park,
Mhm.
who do not consider the park to be a sufficient noise barrier.
Oh,
and
if we
who
wanted to work with the park
want
on this, you know, I think
very-
we've mentioned this previously, what we
Yeah.
can do, you know, noise walls are expensive, more difficult to maintain. If we really wanted to work on the park, the more natural thing for a park is a berm. So is there a way to maybe take the berm and maybe build the berm higher? That's something, but to do a berm higher requires
Yeah.
more land, so for every foot you go up.
But
you
we
have to-
find that the park itself just amplifies the noise
Oh, because it's
it's
just clear-
open space.
clear-
Right,
clear
so the
across it.
residents are concerned with one more lane of traffic, therefore bringing the noise even
Mhm.
closer to us.
Sure.
And again, it just blows right, and I'm one of those residents, it just goes right across the park.
I'd say what we truly could look at is, again, if it's the park district willing to talk about, can we do something from a berming? Because it's the right, most cost-effective way to do something through there. So if there's, which
Okay.
we've done in other locations before too, so we could put up a berm, again, get you some, and the berm is actually, noise wall is a reflective surface, so noise will bounce off of it. A berm is more absorptive, so it's
absorbs
kind of
it.
more like a sponge.
Okay.
So we could work on a berm and look at some landscaping opportunities
Okay.
for the park on long-term.
Okay,
something
yeah,
like that.
it would have to be higher than it is now, because the current version doesn't.
Just doesn't
It doesn't do it.
absorb it enough.
Mm-mm. Especially in the winter.
Unless anybody tells me we should be looking at that. That's something that we've done with other
Okay.
park districts before.
That would be
Uh,
much appreciated
how
if
we
you could take a look at how that.
I mean, again, that's
that
going to
can
be, to do
improve.
that, those are going to require more temporary use of parkland or whatever it might be. We'll have to look at the drainage. I think you got some squishy soils out there, if I'm not mistaken. So, which squishy
Yeah, we
soils
have
may not be
squishy
so bad because maybe it's an unusable portion of the park, or maybe there's some other use
Okay.
of that, but we could certainly look at.
Okay, yep, that would be
So-
much appreciated.
So speaking of squishy soils, what's the plan with Flat Creek?
What part of Flat Creek?
Well, just in general, I mean, you're adding 2 more roads of impervious surface, and what's going to improve the flow of water through Flat Creek?
I know we're doing some drainage modifications of the creek itself, fixing some of the culverts. What has been brought to our attention is the flow coming from north to south through there. We're working on some improvements through there. It's kind of got a stagnant water,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, through there. So we're trying to enhance the flow and figure out how we can get that to continue to move. I don't know, who knows?
Detention pond plan throughout, that's gonna help compensate also for the impact of Flat Creek, with, we're required for no additional flow. detention pond.
So first flush runoff, our intent is to make sure that any of that the rainfall is captured, you know, and held before it enters any of the waterways. So that's part of our drainage design and some of our criteria. Yeah, we are looking at opportunities for additional detention. So any new impervious surface that we put down, we cannot introduce any more water into the waterways than is already out there today. So that's base right there. So if there's opportunities for us to actually provide some local mitigation too, we can. Land is limited through here. So base is today, but we're also looking at addressing some of those stagnant flow issues. I know we've identified some opportunities for additional detention and storage in Western Springs along here where there's some land that may be available. for that.
Do you quarterback that, or do you work in conjunction with the MWRD?
A little bit of both. So ultimately, you know, so we lead everything, but ultimately MWRD has a lot of input. We've actually worked with them on regional storage solutions. We've also worked with Flag Creek Reclamation District. So that's, you know, the difference. So you got MWRD, but and this particular one is Flag Creek. So we're working with all the different partners. So MWRD, Flag Creek, then we do a lot of the analysis.
Maybe one more question about noise, back to the bridge with it being taller and then the pitch going further into the village. Who has the input in and then the obligation to landscape that? And do we have a say in terms of what sort of additional natural?
Us and yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're responsible for it, and that's what we always look for. You've heard me say this over and over. You know, when it comes down to the final landscaping, absolutely we want your input.
I see a lot of green in the drawing. I'd just like to make sure that actually shows up in the.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's those are good things for us to work on. As, you know, that's our obligation. Let's figure out how to put it back. It's not just what we do during construction; it's what's left behind it.
Okay.
Most important.
And I just have one quick question about, I know you stated earlier that this is the workhorse of 294, this area and everything, but what happens like when you get to 95th Street? Like, is it going to be a congested area then because the lanes are going to drop down?
So at 95th, if you're familiar, if you drive
very
down there,
familiar with it.
the traffic at 95th Street interchange itself
It's terrible to try to
not,
get off.
That's, so we're working on I'm glad you realized that, because that interchange, we realize that one doesn't work, but it's not just because of the toll, because it doesn't work. It's
Right,
95th,
it's because of
it's
the
Harlem, it's the
light.
railroad through there. So we're working with the communities of Oak Lawn, Chicago Ridge, to look at new opportunities for potential new access, new interchange locations just south of there to alleviate some of that traffic. But then also Cook County's taking a lead on maybe a reconfiguration or doing something different at 294, 95th. Because once you get through that interchange, it flows fine. We don't have a congestion problem down there. So it's 95th is our problem.
That's really what, yeah.
Yeah,
That-
so-
that exit is terrible, yeah.
So if you're familiar with this, let me just hit this really quick. So we're looking at a couple different new interchange opportunities. When we're out here spending a lot of money, it's our opportunity to put something back, like I said, and put it back the right way. We're looking at trying to fix the 95th Street interchange, opportunities for a new interchange at 103rd Street, which is just a little bit south of there, so it would give you access to Harlem Avenue to get people out of 95th. Then we're also building a new interchange at 79th Street in Justice. So right now, if you know the community Justice, you just can't get to it. So we're building a new northbound exit ramp to 88th Street or Cork Avenue. For anybody who's new, we used to have a ramp, it was pulled out. We're building a new northbound exit through there, a new southbound on-ramp, and a new northbound on-ramp at 171st, or Illinois 171, to get back on the tollway. So what we're trying to do is, instead of trying to fix all the congestion problems, try to get people closer to really where they want to be. So providing those exit points at in Justice, fixing 95th, and a new exit point there further south, we believe that's going to help alleviate some of that
Thank you.
congestion.
What the new speed limit will be, or how you're going to approach that?
So legislation was introduced basically saying interstates, and we've been pushing back on this, 70 miles per hour. What we will do when construction is complete, we will do a traffic analysis. What we will look to set the speeds at is and we're actually, say this week, our speeds are being revised on Interstate 90. So after construction is done, we monitor traffic for about a year to see what the average operating speeds are. And we will set the speed limit in accordance with basically what we call the 85th percentile. So 85% of the traffic is doing what speed? That's generally where the speed will be set. So state law says, I don't know if it says shall be 70, but it's something to that effect. We will set it to what the traffic flow would want it to be. So like I said, I believe this week we will be introducing a new speeds on I-90, which will increase to, a portion of it will increase to 70 miles per hour. This area, it's a little bit more dense, got a lot more interchanges through there, so the western portion of I-90 is going to go up to 70. The far eastern portion through Des Plaines and all that will remain lower than 70. So that's what we'll have to look at when construction is complete.
Anybody else? Well, thank you very much for your
Yeah,
time.
thank
It's
you
very
very much.
informative. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Before you go, though, I'd like to open up the meeting to the public now. Does anyone have any questions of our tollway representatives? Sir, can you come up, please, and use the microphone? Please state your name.
Jerry Olszewski on Western Avenue. There's one section from that's in between that there's no wall, and that's from the crossover bridge, the walk bridge, going south a block. And I guess it was deemed at the time when the walls were being put up that the berm that we had up there was tall enough that it was going to maintain the sound barrier limits or whatever. But now that you're going to have 2 lanes further to the east, is that section going to be filled in?
We don't have the answer right now, but what we'll be looking at is the entire corridor for noise, so that would be one of the areas that we look at. So I know exactly what you're talking about. We have
Right. Now, and is the walkover bridge obviously is coming down and probably not going to be replaced?
We will be replacing a walkover bridge.
You will?
Somewhere. That's what we want to figure out where it should
Okay.
Where it should go. So that's an obligation of the tollways that we are going to replace the pedestrian bridge.
Oh, okay.
Put it back. So I can't answer your question on the noise, but it's part of the evaluation.
Okay.
Still working on it. We'll be, what our intent is to do some public meetings probably within the next month or so, and then we'll have all our information about the project and a lot more detail on noise.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you again for your time.
I did want to also mention that the new tollway representatives have met with the Commonwealth Board
Yes.
of North and South Commonwealth Associations. They are also meeting with some of the residents that are directly impacted or adjacent to the toll road that may be impacted, and that's north of the Works area. And also the Ridgewood Association is meeting with them. And then we plan on having some more public meetings on that too.
So probably in the next month or two.
I know that we're going to be having some system-wide meetings, correct?
Yeah, we're shooting within the next month, spring, sometime this spring. is what we're
Wonderful.
setting up. We haven't set the dates yet, so
Okay.
we'll go.
And then Attorney Jurosick, did you want to comment on the temporary easements and so forth? The request.
Well, I know that we're going to have to get together on the temporary easements, and probably when we get to negotiating those documents, we'll make sure we sit with the Park District and we can, we talked a little bit about your traffic plan, your access plan, as Trustee Sifferman indicated. Probably be a good idea to sort of have those ideas kind of more formalized so we can make them part of those easements, exhibits to the easements, since they are going to be, the temporary construction easement areas are is going to be where the traffic's coming in and out, the access points and the traffic control and the signage and what have you. So it'd be great when we start that dialogue to have your ideas for those plans and see those in advance.
Anything else? No? Thanks again. This time I mean it. Okay, still with public comment, does anyone else in the audience tonight wish to address the board on any other matter?
One other issue is the flight pattern. It's coming. The planes are coming in lower and lower, and at beginning it started like whenever it started, like a year or two ago. They were doing it on weekends. Now it's every day and every night. And is that going to be permanent? And it seems that they're coming in lower than what they first did. And the noise that emanates from that too, combined with the tollway, and I live near both.
Sure.
And the planes are directly over my house on my block on Western. Is there any kind of noise abatement if that's going to continue, that can be provided by the Chicago Yes, Chicago Aviation. They did it for other villages that were near the airport. Now they've changed the pattern, and now we're suffering the consequences of this.
Are you experiencing that daily?
Every day.
Every day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at times, every minute, there's a plane coming over for a certain time of the day, during the day, in the evening. So, that's
Well, we had
my
this issue
concern.
last year, and there are sites that you can go on to lodge your complaint.
Yeah, but you might as well talk to the wall. I
Yeah,
mean, they're not-
yeah. We also had our representative, Dan Lipinski, look into it, and he's been an advocate for maintaining or limiting the use of this. I believe it's a relatively new flight pattern on a runway.
Right, and it's all, yeah, it's all Midway. It's all Southwest planes that are coming over, basically.
We can certainly reach out to him again and see if he
I'd
can
appreciate that.
advocate on our behalf. As a municipality, we don't have a lot of power.
I know,
But
I know.
maybe the bigger guns in Washington do,
Right.
so, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
They have told us that they're going to be using that 30% of the time.
Okay.
But
It's more than that.
every day. It's every day.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the omnibus. Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions, such as awards of contract, appointments, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion, and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there any such request this evening? Hearing none, Trustee Timmick.
Thank you, President Gallagher. I move that the following ordinances, resolutions, and motions as contained on the meeting agenda for March 26, 2018 be adopted and/or approved under an omnibus vote. Agenda item number 1, approval of minutes of the meetings of February 26th and March 12th, 2018 as read. Agenda item number 2, ordinance number 18-2915, amending Title IV Liquor Control, Chapter 1, Alcoholic Liquor, Section 4-1-10A 10 of the Western Springs Village Code of 1997 as amended, relative to the number of Class J special events only on village-owned property beer and wine only liquor licenses, which can be issued in the Village of Western Springs, Cook County, Illinois, for the Western Springs Business Association for the 2018 special events, Gathering on the Green, Fall Festival, and Winter Wonderland events, to be located on the Village Tower Green area and portions of the adjacent rights-of-way of Hillgrove Avenue, Lawn Avenue, Grand Avenue, and Walnut Street. Agenda item number 3, ordinance 18-2916, authorizing the disposal of surplus personal property owned by the Village of Western Springs, 2011 Ford Taurus vehicle. Agenda item number 4, resolution 18-2423, authorizing and approving the execution of a first addendum to the polystyrene foam collection agreement between the Village of Western Springs and Dark Care LLC. Agenda item number 5, resolution 18-2424, approving the issuance of a raffle license under Title III Business Regulations, Chapter 12, Charitable Games, Raffles, Bingo, and Other Games of Chance Regulations, Section 3-12-3, Raffles of the Western Springs Municipal Code of 1997, as amended, for applicant Law Enforcement Services Department National Night Out Raffle for Special Olympics on August 7th, 2018, with a license fee waiver and a bond waiver. Agenda item number 6, resolution 18-2425, honoring Jake Elliott on the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl 52 victory. Agenda item number 7, motion to approve a license and an indemnification agreement for temporary use of a public right-of-way to operate a beer and wine retail sales tent and alcoholic beverages sales consumption area at special events. Western Springs Business Association for 2018 special events, Gathering on the Green, Fall Festival, and Winter Wonderland special event. Agenda item number 8, motion to waive the competitive bidding process and renew a contract with True Green LP of Hickory Hills, Illinois for the 2018 Emerald Ash Borer Treatment Program at 2015 unit prices in an amount not to exceed $40,000. Note the 2015 contract was competitively bid. Agenda item number 9, motion to approve a proclamation naming April 27, 2018 as Arbor Day in the Village of Western Springs. Agenda item number 10, motion to waive the competitive bidding process and award a contract to Curry Motors of Frankfort, Illinois for the purchase of one 2018 Ford Escape SE vehicle at a purchase price of $22,736 at the pricing schedule available under the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative. Agenda item number 11, motion to approve the appointment of Alan Fink as Chair of the Recreation Commission for the balance of his term to expire in July 2018.
Is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
Any discussion? Clerk Fitzgerald, may we have a roll call vote?
Certainly, Madam President. Trustee Hansen?
Aye.
Trustee Timick?
Aye.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph?
Aye.
Trustee Sifferman?
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell?
Aye.
President Gallagher?
Aye. Motion passes. Is there any other business this evening? Then we'll move on to the reports. The monthly financial report, Trustee Rudolph.
Thank you, President Gallagher. First, in terms of our investment activity, our IMET fund with the February month end earned 1.38%, while the police pension fund this month posted a 2.88% loss. The general funds, our revenues are greater than our expenses, which is, of course, a nice position to be in. Again, we benefited from the early distribution of the property tax levy, and also noted is the sales taxes earned in November and distributed in February were 2.1% higher than the same period last year. Our February expenditures were mainly comprised of our payroll. The water and the sewer funds, we have a balance in those funds of $235,738. The consumption billed in February for usage between November of 2017 and January of 2018 is down 20.8% over last year, which seems like an odd reduction. So that is being investigated to ensure there were not any errors, looking at some of our major consumption buildings, et cetera, to see if there is not some error somewhere, because it's pretty hard to explain the 21% reduction in that. Any questions on the funds or investment activity?
Yeah, Trustee Rudolph.
Yes.
Page 5, the Special Purpose Reserve Fund. The interest on it is about half what we've budgeted year to date. Is there any insight on that?
Director Shuri, any?
I'm sorry, could you? So on page 5, the Special Purpose Reserve, the year-to-date actual interest was $1,052 in the budget. Year-to-date projected was $2,883. So we're earning about half, it looks like, than we budgeted.
Oh, some of the CDs that we have are longer term, so they're coming due, and so we're going to reinvest those into higher rates as the rate goes up.
Oh, and you only post it when you actually get the cash instead of like on an accrual?
No, we're on a cash basis.
Got it. So it'll all catch up at some point?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Great question. And then also a quick update on the promissory note. As you may recall, we did put that out to bid to 8 banks. We received responses from 6, and right now we are evaluating those bids. At our April 9th workshop, we will just be able to discuss those and get back to you with more information at that time. And then also to note, the audit begins tomorrow, so we should also have preliminary 2017 year-end numbers by the end of April. Any other questions?
Oh, of course.
Trustee Allen?
On the 6 responses, how many did we send out?
8.
8, okay. And then is your committee going to look at any other alternatives as well too? And, like any other options or different ways of looking at it instead of just a straight 10-year?
I think we're still looking at the 10-year. But within that, no penalty, no prepayment penalty. So there's the flexibility to pay it down sooner, so we wouldn't be you know, we would not be paying them the full interest rate over the 10 years?
Well, I guess also like if we were to do some of it in cash and not do.
Oh, I see.
You know, just what would that look like to our overall fiscal situation to look at a couple different options?
Do you have some in mind in particular?
Well, I mean, to me, it seems like, you know, what would it look like if we did it all cash and no note? What would it look like if you did 50-50? What would it look like if you did 100% note? What would it look like 10-year versus 3-year, you know, in
Gotcha.
terms of an
Gotcha.
amortization? Just to see what, you know, just an aggregate it looks like.
Of what the different options could look like?
Yeah.
Is that something we can explore, just in terms of looking at those different types of options?
We could have that available for the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
I think that would
thank you.
be, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Other questions? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the February financial report.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Trustee.
Okay, roll call vote?
Yes, on this one.
May we have a roll call vote, please? Clerk
Yep.
Fitzgerald?
Trustee Hansen?
Aye.
Trustee Timick?
Aye.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph?
Aye.
Trustee Sifferman?
Aye.
Trustee Terrell?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to my report, I have no report this evening. Village Manager Velke?
No report this evening.
Village Attorney Jerusik?
I'll make that a 3-for-0. No report.
Thank you. In that case, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned. Good night. Thank you.